Hey, this is John Greathouse. I'm here with Mike Falzone, YouTube star.
Okay.
Yeah.
Throw around that star word.
A big star. Yeah, capital S, yeah, and 2 R's. So he's a big one. And I'm really here to talk to him a little bit about what it's like to be a YouTube entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs come in all flavors, shapes, and sizes. And I think if you look at the YouTube world, you're seeing entrepreneurship at its best. That's creating something from nothing. And so really want to talk to Mike a little bit about his journey and how he went from just a guy making videos online to an author, comedian, musician, and we'll just explore that journey a little bit. So Mike, thanks for...
Is this like a this is your life type thing?
Well,
my parents here?
You will tear up.
Okay.
There are a couple kids from high school, and apparently there was some drugs in your... I don't know.
Yeah,
that's what they said.
drugs.
That's what they said. Yeah, some ibuprofen, I think is what they were talking about.
I did a lot of Pepto-Bismol back in the day, a lot of tummy aches.
I thought that when I saw you, I kind of was thinking that.
Yeah?
It's the pink.
You look at that guy and you're like, he's hooked on the Pepto.
Yeah. Well, you started, you kind of came to YouTube as a musician. Dave Storm, Mr. Guitar Man. There's a long list of successful YouTubers who have taken that path. Mm-hmm. I'd love to hear your story about how you started on that road, and then how you ended up saying, this video thing is interesting, and this is something I really want to focus more time on. And I know you had a life-changing event, which was almost a life-ending event, and I'd love to hear sort of how that impacted your story as well.
Yeah. I got on the site 2006 just because I was a musician. I had been a musician for 10, 12 years before. I still very much consider myself a musician.
So you started this journey, you started doing covers, right?
Yeah.
So you were going through that period in your musical career where you were still sort of, leaning on what had come before as you were writing your own songs. I know you, Friday was a big video for you.
Yeah.
It was painful to watch, to be honest.
It's painful to me.
I did get all the way through it, and I suggest anyone that hasn't seen the Friday video.
It's genius.
It's pure genius, if you can get through it. But you got a lot of views with that, so you started scratching your head a little bit and going, okay, so this is interesting. But then you stopped doing the covers. You decided that, that part of my career is, I'm moving beyond it, and I want to do something else. So that was back when you were doing Making It, right? So when you go back to that kid, right? What would he have said if he was sitting here and I said, Mike, you're doing this thing called Making It. What does that mean? What did it mean to you back then?
Well, first, if I could see that kid, I'd be like, shave the goatee. Because when you have just the goatee, you look like Jay Buhner, and he retired years ago. Back then it was just like, I had no plan. I just wanted to make something. I knew I loved editing things from learning about editing in college and stuff like that. I was a double major, and film was one of my majors, so I just loved to cut stuff. And, even technically, not very good back then, I just knew that I had, I was touring with my friend and we could have this show. And we didn't have to wait for anybody. We could just film stuff and then make stuff and show our friends. So I think it was a creative way to get more music out there, And,
but you didn't have a definition of what Making It was? Was Making It literally making the videos? Or?
You have this dream when you're little. You're like, I want to be a pop star.
Yeah.
And then you start playing shows and you kind of get that part of it. And then you realize that you have to play as much as possible and always be in all these people's faces. And then you realize, scale it back a little bit because no one really cares about your shows if no one comes to your show. There's this journey from working harder to smarter. And I think that was at least a small step in that process, trying to figure out a way to get yourself out there in a way that not a lot of people were taking advantage of.
Yep. Well, and I think the journey for a lot of people is the grandiose to the specific. The grandiose of when you're a kid is like, of course, I know what fame means.
Dude, and I think that's where a lot of people run into problems is they keep with the grandiose and they don't learn about what holds that idea up.
Right.
And the more you learn about everybody's job, let's just take music for example. If you learn about the musician's job, the recording technicians, and you learn about what promoters do, specifically what promoters don't do. If you learn about all this stuff, learn about why people come to shows, how people find music, the more you just know about all these different avenues, the more grounded your footing is going to be in whatever you want to do.
Yeah, in my mind, you're checking off the boxes of a successful entrepreneur. You work your ass off, right? You got to do that. And I think you have to be just unflinchingly, I think you make your own luck. I think you have to be unflinchingly curious. Like, you can't look at, oh, now I gotta learn what the promoter does. Are you kidding me? I'm a musician, man. Whereas, you know, your mindset is like, I want to know what the promoter does. I want to know what the booking agent does. These are things that are interesting to me. Absolutely. And I think, again, that's an attribute of an entrepreneur. It's just this idea that, you know, learning is fun. And learning is part of, you know, why I'm in this. And I don't expect to just wake up tomorrow and be famous. Yeah. You know, the bars about now are full of people that, you know, that was their dream, is they wanted to be famous, and they weren't willing to do anything about it.
It's fun that you say the word entrepreneur, and I'm just trying to like make money to eat and have an apartment and stuff like that. Right, exactly. But I guess I never thought about it like that. I always think of entrepreneurs as like, you know, you have all your paperwork in a row and you have your taxes all figured out. And you have like a plan and stuff like that.
No, you haven't been hanging around with very good entrepreneurs.
I don't know time. Not a good one.
Well, you actually do, right? So maybe that's part of what we can talk about is this idea that maybe that is a stereotype of in certain people's minds of what an entrepreneur is. But I think, you know, everybody in this building to some extent is an entrepreneur. Sarah is clearly an entrepreneur. Most, I think, YouTubers in general, successful YouTubers are entrepreneurs. Yeah. My definition is somebody who basically creates something out of nothing. It's a pretty broad definition, but you fit that again. These other people. So it's not the I've got a green eye shade, you know. Like,
right.
In fact, I don't think those people are that entrepreneurial, to be frank. But anyway,
it's kind of comforting in the way that you called me an entrepreneur, because it's either you get it and you see it like that and you see how much work goes into stuff, or you're a dude that makes videos on the internet.
Right.
Like everybody else does.
Yeah.
So it's
dude, I try to do this.
right. And you know, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
There's just like
some of my videos are good.
Right. It's just the people, like when I explain stuff to like my family or some friends or just people who don't know about the whole YouTube world, I can't fault them for that because it's relatively new. Yeah. But it is a thing that takes so much work, and as crazy as it may sound, I have 300 whatever videos up, I think, probably, and like I would consider it a body of work and not just a bunch of stuff I shot and uploaded just cause.
Yes, I love that. I bring a lot of entrepreneurs in my classroom, and if I could distill one thing that made it, because I always get asked, why are you so successful? And it's almost always a variation of, I work my ass off. Yeah. That's what. Yeah. You can do that too. You know, it's like it's open to you. Like, just work your ass off. Tell me a little bit about that. Laying in the hospital as a young man and having a very, very near-death experience twice in a month. And how did that shape, what you're doing now?
It kind of shaped what I'm doing and my life in a very specific and very powerful way. Long story short, I was having horrible pains one day. It turns out I needed an appendectomy, emergency appendectomy. I went to the walk-in, and of course I went like way late because I'm like, I was drinking the night before, and there was a wedding, and I had sushi today. Like I screwed my body up. I get it, right? So I didn't go to the hospital until way late. Turns out I had horrible inner body parts, and they wanted to explode. And then they did that. My appendix exploded on the operating table, and that causes a thing called sepsis, and it's basically like breaking a little bag of poison inside you, and then it just spread. I had infections and abscesses, and it was awesome. So that was the first time I almost died. So that got sorted out, and then I went home for a week, got fired from a job that I had just gotten because of the week of work that I missed.
That seems fair.
Yeah. People are going to do whatever. They made a life choice for me, and I'm happy that they did that.
Right.
And then I started having chest pains when I was breathing. I called the hospital because at that point, like, they were on my speed dial because I'd been back and forth so many times. I had kidney stones twice during these 2 weeks period. And I had a pulmonary embolism, which is a blood clot that ends in your lungs. Like, it'll come from your leg or your abdomen, they think. And it ended in my lungs. So that was the second thing that could have killed me. That's very bad. It's a very bad thing to happen.
Wow. So you're good for the next 85 years?
That's what everybody in the hospital said. They're like, you're never going to be sick again.
We'll see you in 2085.
Right, exactly. So by the end of my 2-week stay, or 3-week stay in the hospital, I looked down and I'm on blood thinners by this point because they want to get the clot situation figured out. I have this, like, you know, I'm waiting for my abdomen to heal. And in both arms, I have, like, you know, 2 IVs sticking out of both arms. And I'm kind of just like, I'm never going to work for anyone ever again. Because I tried to work for these people and they fired me at, like, the lowest point in my life. Yeah. And I don't harbor any resentment because it's just like I said, like, you made a life choice for me and now I'm in LA talking to a guy who writes for Forbes magazine. So
does it get you better? This is
it. I'm actually going to ask for my old job back right after this. But it's, long story short, the thing it taught me was that, like, we're not here forever, and who knows, in a couple of years I might be back there and I might not walk out this time. Like, who knows, you know? So with everything that I make, I kind of keep in mind that these people are giving me some of their time. The people who watch my videos are giving me like 3-5 minutes of their time that they'll never be able to get back. So whether it's a show, like whether it's a video, whether it's a podcast, like, I want to make everything as good as possible because I want it to be worth it. You know, I want it to be worth that person's time. I mean, if you're 26 years old and you think, like, I had a doctor tell me how close to death I was, so, like, why would you not just do whatever you want for the rest of your life? And that's pretty much how I walked out of the hospital. I was like, you know, I told my mom on the way home, I'm like, I'm never gonna have a boss again. I'm just gonna do whatever I want.
Right, that's awesome. I mean, hopefully it won't take, you know, some folks watching this, hopefully it won't take a life on your life-death experience for you to get to that point.
Hopefully you love video, but it's a lot less expensive.
That's right. but it's free in a lot of ways. I mean, you know, again, it comes at a high price, but congrats to you.